Hello, William Johnson here, and this is another episode of playing percussion, hand percussion, primarily. Although in the previous episodes I was doing timbales and cowbells as well. But this is an episode in a series on playing percussion in a drum break. So you're playing with the drummer, the band drops out, perhaps the bass player is still going, but rhythmically it's very strong in a lot of the melodic aspects. Guitars, pianos, vocals have dropped out. The vocals might be in as far as like a chorus chant type thing, but that's the basics, the essence of the video. So in this episode, I believe this is part 5, I'm going to talk about open notes. And my voice, you probably can't hear it in the microphone, but my voice is really reverberating off of one of these drums around me. Anyways, so I'm going to talk about using open notes in a groove-themed bass. So, groove-based theme, sorry. So previously, I mentioned a couple different categories. Using an improvised theme, like where you're playing a lead. Then there's using a groove-based theme, where you're playing a looped type of groove or beat with the drummer, and then multi-instrument. So you're using different instruments with different hands. Now there's some crossover of these elements, but I use these categories to kind of pivot in conversation and in presenting these different ideas. And that's just it. They're ideas for you to build off of. So what I wanted to talk about really briefly, and then just do the video, is using open notes in a groove-based theme. So the drum beat is playing boom, boom, ta-ka, boom, boom, ta-ka, and you're basically picking some open notes, and what I mean by that is not slaps, not bass notes, but just letting the drum, this got a djembe over here in my left hand, letting the drum resonate, letting wherever you have it tuned, letting that speak for itself. And so the idea here is to be able to strengthen your memory and your intentions, your intentionality when it comes to playing. So now we're not just playing whatever comes to mind. That's good. I mean, you are playing whatever comes to mind, but now you're going to be intentional with it. You're going to actually manipulate it. Like right now, I have a thought, an idea to convey to you and express, and I am intentionally using words in a manner to get this expression across to you. So I'm not just throwing out random thoughts. I'm actually trying to express a specific thing. That being said, I'm still improvising the way that I'm going to express it to you, but I'm being very intentional with my vocabulary. Same thing with the drums. So if the drum beat's going, I might pick something based on what I'm thinking. Maybe I'll use mostly low tones. And then around the backbeat, the snare, ka, I'll use the higher open note of the djembe. So it might be boom, boom, ka, boom. So there was a lot of variation there, but there was a theme. The theme was, which is coming back home to the djembe here around the backbeat. So I'm playing whether I'm going 1 or 2, going from conga to conga. I'm still doing a groove it's a pattern. There's a strong pattern that's happening. I'm not just improvising and just playing lead stuff like a lead guitarist will be improvising on top of a rhythm guitar, acoustic guitar. I'm actually being quite intentional. I'm coming back to here. Okay? So I'm playing with open tones there. That's another idea that you can do when you're playing percussion in a drum break. And so you have to be careful now when you're playing with the drummer of where his toms are, his floor toms, where his snare is. You're syncopating. So there's an idea where we can play on top of the backbeat, the snare, with this, or we can play behind or in front of it. Chika, or behind it. Chika. Ka. See, so I play right after the snare, then I play here, or right before the snare. Ka, ka, right? Something like that. So I'm being intentional, but I'm syncopating. I'm playing around what he's playing. In order to do this well, that means that you have to really be listening and paying attention to the groove that he's doing. And this happens in one of a couple ways. One way that this happens is by practice, listening to the song set and then coming up with an idea that you might want to play, and then actually being intentional about practicing that groove. Or when you're in the rehearsal, if you haven't had time to do this, or all of a sudden you've got an idea, is to really pay attention to what you're doing, listening to him and playing something that complements him, or maybe he's playing something or she's playing something that complements you. But the thing is to either make it simple enough that you can remember it, or write it down in some type of way. Now, how you write it, if you're not actually, if you're not literate when it comes to music theory and writing, that's up to you to pick something that will make you remember. 2 open notes on the low drum and 1 note after the snare on the djembe in the drum break. So you might take the chart. Say there's a chart on a piece of paper. Okay, this is a chart from a concert that I did, worship concert I did not long ago. And in the chart, it has lyrics and some chord charts. Well, as a percussionist, sometimes you might be like, well, I don't know what to do with this if you're in the beginning stages, but you can make your notes on there. I mean, it's laid out for you. And this is something that if you don't have, that you can print out. Print out the lyrics, print them, put them in the fashion where maybe it's the bridge or the verse, and then write notes on there. Okay, here's drum break, highlight, 2 opens on the low note, and then a low conga, and then open note right after the snare on the djembe, and you might write that in shorthand where the drum break is, or on the bridge. So that's something to keep in mind to do. So these are just nuggets and some ways to look at playing this approach. So yeah, one more thing that I wanted to mention for this video, and then just go right to me playing a couple different ways, is the way that you play your open note. If your fingers are spread farther apart, then the open note is going to be thinner. If they're closer together and you press just a little bit more, not letting them bounce as much, then you're going to get a different sound from where you have it tuned. So now I close them together and I press in just a little bit, still letting it resonate, still an open note, but now I bring the note level down a little bit. So you don't just have where they're tuned, but you also have how you articulate, and that's articulation, how you change your hands to actually hit the drum. So when you change your articulation, you can also change the note. You can make it more flat or more sharp. And in this case, might make it a little more sharp. I don't know. Some of you might be listening and be able to correct me on that. But if you do it in a certain way, you might actually be able to get another note out of it. So just experiment with that. Yeah, these are just a couple ideas. I'm using the djembe on my left hand. I'm using congas on my right hand. You may switch things around, but the idea is that I'm using these drums to play a variation, a combination of high, really high notes with medium to low notes, and I'm using all open resonating notes in combination with the drummer. All right, so check out what I'm getting ready to do here, playing with the drummer, and I'm just gonna do one take live. It is what it is, and hopefully it'll just give you some ideas, some vocabulary.